Welcome, ladies and gentlemen from all over our alliance, to this Renegade training sponsored by Jux. I'm probably Incursion Gaming somewhere. I'm Hamster, your host and screen share for this event, and I'm joined by the one and only Leechess, our favorite double agent from Jux. We will start off with some basics before going into more detail about different scenarios and skill usage. What's the role of a Renegade in the squad? I see a first answer here. Strip and Elec, okay. Anybody else?
Resistance.
I mean, boons in general.
Strip resistance Elec, yeah, I see different answers here. So who thinks that Renegade is a DPS class?
I mean, you do some damage, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's not
In
exactly
open world, yeah.
main
In the
DPS.
in the current meta build, no.
Okay. Yeah, you got it mostly right.
It
It's
is
not.
supportive damage. It's not
Yeah, it's supported damage. Right. It's mostly about the boons you give off, and yeah, about stripping the enemy. That is what is your role. So I'd like to ask another question. Can you name all the boons that Renegades can give? Already named a few,
I
but I'd
can
like.
try.
First one.
Fury, stability, alacrity, might, of course, resistance, and what's the second one?
Vigor.
Resolution.
Might.
Yeah,
I
might.
call
Well,
might.
We have
we already got might.
I don't know.
Maybe vigor, but I-
Maybe he named it and I missed it.
Swiftness?
Yes, with the
Oh,
plus one.
Swiftness? What?
So you
yeah,
can
it's
get
conditional
swiftness.
swiftness.
You
Yes.
can
yeah.
get swiftness with your lightning field, and your lightning field
Blasting it.
is your inspiring reinforcement, your stability vote. If you blast it with your mace 3, can't do this because you're not running mace, but don't worry about it. Because your squads already have a lot of swiftness from the heal firebrands. Yeah. So that's about swiftness. Might we get by pre-stacking our fire field on mace 2. And from our Shout Heroic Command. This works by having stacks of Colors Favor. So these stacks are pretty easy to get. You basically just need to hit stuff. Hitting one, and you already get some stacks. As you see, it fills up. It's like one fast Spirit Crush already fills up the Gorge to 5. And when you hit it, you restart your stacks and on max 5 stacks, 10 stacks of Might. So you give out a lot of Might. You probably won't give more mites than scrappers. And yeah, leeches in general might want to say something about might giving.
So, a really good way to get the Kala's favor immediately full stacked is to use skill 4 sword. Because it has 5 targets immediately, and that gives you the full Kala's favor, so you can give the full might. However, do you want me to go over how you might want to drop might? Because scrappers are taking care of it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, so you might want to just not press that button whatsoever, the F2 button. And you might want to just favor using 2 and 3 with your mace instead. 4 also, and that will give you so much more damage on the enemy instead of wasting that energy on a might. Even though it's small amount of might, it's quite nice to actually be able to DPS as well. You know, if we find we're just running with a constant 25 stacks of might, there's absolutely no need to reapply might at that point, I don't think. But it depends how you want to play.
Yes, okay, thanks. So, Fury, we get passively without trades. You also give Vigor to yourself by this trade, because whenever you gain Fury, you also gain Vigor. And yeah, you basically don't run out of Vigor, so you can dodge a lot. Alacrity, it's another order. And with our trade, this one, we get a duration increase on it. Renegade is basically the only remaining class beside Chronomancer and a squad that still gives off Alacrity. You're responsible for it, and you're to give it to a party. So keep it up, spam it whenever it's off cooldown. It's
In and out of combat, because in between fights, you really want your berserkers to have their banner cooldown with alacrity and whatnot. You want to just have that alacrity button at F4 off cooldown, hit it every single time.
stability, you might also know. Famous vote gives off stability. Staying on it, it pulls stability, and he gives off stability immediately as you cast it. You mostly give off stability to a squad, not your party, like Firebrands, but it's still very useful to have. Resistance you give by pain absorption or just by switching to Melex, because you have a trait that gives resistance just by starting this legend. It also gives off stability if you use your Dwarf Elite, half legend. You also draw conditions from your allies with this skill. But mostly it's for using resistance, and it's also useful for pre-stacking before a fight. Pre-stacking works by hitting a resistance button, right-click on a stance, on a legend. You can choose Centaur or Dwarf. I use Dwarf because I don't want to get stuck suddenly in Centaur. Then left-clicking on a legend. And then right-clicking again, left-clicking, and hitting it again. If you're doing it pretty fast, you can pre-stack your resistance. I'm not clicking right now, it doesn't matter. Very fast before a forced fight. If you are getting better at it, comfortable at it, you can also do it while running towards the enemy, maybe. But be careful, you can get stuck in the wrong legend if you do that.
You can hold the key for the pain absorption when you're pre-stacking it. You don't need to press it. You can just hold the key, swap legend, swap in.
I think we figured out as well, it's about 5 seconds of doing that kind of quickly gives you a full stack of resistance, and also your party members, but I think your party members get it slightly slower or something. Yeah, so you kind of want to keep going even though you've got a full stack.
Yeah.
I wouldn't delay yourself going into a fight because you haven't reached that full stack, if you know what I mean. It's kind of just like a really nice bonus before a fight. And if you manage to hit it off, that's awesome. But if you don't manage to hit it off, still, like, just concentrate on staying on tag.
Yeah.
Even though we might not call for it for pre-stacking resistance, I advise everybody to practice it for a while and do it every time you play Renegade, just to be comfortable with it when it's called. Some squads call for it, some squads don't. What other ways do we have to support? Someone mentioned Rite of the Great Dwarf. That was what I'm looking for. But Dwarf Elite is a very useful but also niche skill. It's not like you want to pop this in front of every fight. Jumping on an enemy is very, very dangerous because you can get nuked in the time you are in the air still, and when you are falling down, you're already dead. But if you pop it right before dropping down, you always get a 50% damage reduction for the time you're in the air and you are down here, and you might survive a bomb from the enemy that way. Some other situations involve pushing into the enemy, and when you're in the thick of it, then it might be better off to use a Dwarf Elite and a Stabby Road. People sometimes get stunned after the stability was stripped, and that way you break their stun and also gives some damage reduction. You have a unique condition called Slow. It's not very common on most builds, and it's nice to have, and it's also on a very powerful skill with a low cooldown. I'd like to ask you, how does Renegade strip wounds? Anything else? Yeah, we already got a few people calling Banish Enchantment. Yeah, that's a primary one.
Yeah. Then you have Brutality, stripping stability.
Yeah,
and you have
Brutality.
your weapon sigils.
Right, exactly, yeah. You have your weapon sigils as well. Modification you have on 2 weapons. It's always nice to have. And it mostly hits, because striking from its flank, pretty easy to do. Brutality. Dawn doesn't have it. Doesn't have it. You have another trait and you don't have Devastation. But for the meta people, Brutality is this trait that just strips stability. It doesn't strip the whole stack. Like when people have 10 stacks of stability, it does only strip 1 each interval, which is 1 second on every attack. It only strips when you have quickness. So you are pretty good off when you are paired with a Spectre, for example, or a Chronomancer that gives more quickness, but this 5 seconds you get for yourself after every weapon switch is a lot, and is mostly enough because you might be switching weapons anyway. So don't really think too much about it. It's there and it's useful. How many boons can you strip with Banish Enchantment in 1 hit?
15.
Right?
Yeah,
Plus
15 is
weapon
right.
sigils.
15 is right. No, not just with Banish Enchantment. Yeah, of course you can maybe proc something in that time, but I'm aiming for the 15 here. So we are not in even teams here. Oh yeah. Okay, let's hop down and show off how it works for the people who don't know how it works. stand together. That's nice. Usually you see a squad like that. It's different when you fight a cloud, of course. But what you want to do is you want to aim behind, because your banish enchantment pierces. And by that, it hits up to 5 people in the way. So I want to everybody to practice it just once. Fight on the enemy, see how it works. Try to aim behind at the back and to hit as much as possible. Do note that it has 900 range. What do you want to call out in voice?
Stripping now?
Stripping.
Yes, exactly. Renegade is not a very vocal class. You don't need to call out your cooldowns or anything, because your cooldowns are usually very short and not necessary to call out. But you want to call out strips. It's very important. Because, yeah, if you strip, that's a cue for your necromancers to pull. And fights are won on engagement sometimes. If you hit a good strip, and all your renegades hit a good strip, you might be able to pull a few enemies afterwards, kill them, and then the enemy squad is already down a few members. Okay, how does your commander call strip leeches? Is it like...
No, there's no. You just say strip pull here, and then the renegades will know just to do their strip. But the thing that I notice is a little bit different is the necros know to wait for the strip call to then do their pull.
I heard that Finger was calling it lately.
Finger is mostly calling for wills and pulls.
Okay.
And then has the renegades call for strips themselves when it comes up. Pretty much.
Shenanigans, are you calling it? Okay. So one cue to remember is, if there's a red bar below a skill, that means you're not in range for the skill to hit your target. So do remember that when you are trying to strip. But at some point you just know where your range is, and you will be able to just know naturally if you can strip the enemy or not.
I always think it's really good practice on the first engagement. It's good because we want to be at the front, so that we're in range first to get the strip out of the way for necros. We want to basically immediately follow up with the dodge back, and that will put us like kind of at the back of this squad again. Because what you find is a lot of the DPS on the enemy, they're using tab target, or they might be clicking to get the guy that's closest, and all the damage, all the pulls is all going to go on you, but not if you dodge it, you know.
Be behind your commander, but don't be too far off. You're not a heavy backliner. You want to stay close to your commander. This is how I play it. I don't know if you play a different leeches.
Yeah, it's super similar. By being in front of the commander, I mean like a couple pixels. Like, I'm on the commander when I'm trying to get the strips. I might greed a little bit just to get strips out. If I know that we're full push, like as long as Andrew hasn't said, right, we're going to do a fake push here, I will go like a little bit in front just to get the strip off, knowing fine that I'm going to follow up with the dodge back and be immediately behind the squad. And the necros will hopefully have put their pool down in range. That's I would say dodge is key for doing strips at the beginning.
What do you think is your primary source to deal damage on Renegade?
Short bow 4 and 5.
Mace 2 and maybe even 3.
Yeah, the mace hits pretty hard. First damage. Otherwise, it's just conditions that you just...
A big road, alright, into the enemy.
A stability road, yes.
I'm gonna start off. One set sword 5. Please
Hammers.
don't do that, because sword 5 teleports you. Which means
suicide
you
button,
can
okay.
just be out of position and into the enemy. Sword 5 is a very good tool to get in a new place, get to reposition yourself if you need to. Same as Call to Anguish. Sometimes you want to get back to a squad. Sometimes you want to escape from the enemy. The pull doesn't really matter. It's nice if you want to fight and you're just dispersing the enemy and you're just jumping on them and pulling them together and stuff like that, but they still might have stability and you might even be better off just stripping them again. Thanks.
Yeah. Sometimes nice against cards, though.
Yeah.
When you're on
Yeah,
a hill,
it
can
is,
pull them
yeah.
down.
So
But-
please don't use sword 5 for damage. If you push in melee, mace 2 is where the damage is. because it leaves a field that's damages the enemy and also conditions them. And when you're in melee, you also want to use your hammers. Don't stay too long on it, it drains your energy. You might want to use the stable goat in between again. You might need dwarf lead instead. But especially if you already won, yeah, then you just go ahead and tag as many as possible. Anything you want to add there, Leechess?
Just when we do eventually pull someone, it's really nice to switch to mace and get the immobilize skill down with sword 4 on the enemy that was pulled by the necros. And bear in mind, at this point you should be kind of like at the back because you've done your dodge back from the initial strip, and that shoots out in front of you in like a cone shape. So you want to try and immobilize them and then follow up with a burning field on them. And also, if you're far enough away from them, you can use Mace 3, but it will jump you forward, which can actually get you back in, like, closer to the squad.
I'd like to also add, please stay away from forced engagement. I already went over how to recover if you are behind your squad and you need to catch up, and how to escape the enemy. There's other stuff to escape. What is your stun break? Do you know?
The resistance
overlays.
button.
Yes, the
Also
resistance
Great
button.
Dwarf.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And yeah, an easy stun break is sometimes a pseudo stun break is just switching to demon stance, because then you get resistance, and you sometimes have stuff like fear on you, or immobilize, or chill and slow, which are not stuns but also deadly, and you immediately can move again after just switching to your demon stance. Remember that. And also, if you switch to demon stance, you might immediately want to push your pain absorption as well, because that is a stun break if you are actually stunned. What makes very good gameplay from beginner gameplay is how you manage your charged mists trade. This trade is hard to handle in the beginning because it's all about knowing how much energy you spend, but it's very useful to use when you mastered it. Remember stuff like Vanishing Champion costs 30 energy, Pain Absorption costs 30 energy, Alacrity 20, Aerial Command 10, but it's not really useful to drain your energy. You have Great Dwarf, which costs 40, and the Stubby Dwarf, which costs 30. You will learn that naturally. You want to watch your level of energy and be aware how much energy you still have. Be also aware that when you stay in Dwarf, you might have more energy than you can spend. That's where Dwarf Lead comes in. Sometimes I just use it to spend my energy and get below the 10 energy to trigger my trade and get up to the 75 in the demon stance, which means that I can immediately strip twice or use a pain absorption in between. That stuff can only be mentioned, but you need to play in order to get it down. Don't overstay in Malix just because you want to strip more and more and more. Your squad might run out of stability from Dwarf or other useful stuff like resistance, and you're gonna die, and it doesn't matter if you stripped a lot. So balance it between going in between Dwarf stance and Demon stance. The way I play is I spam Shopper 1 when I'm running beside the squad, always have a target on to get my brutality stacks, my brutality trade off. I sometimes use Bloodbane Path, but not a lot, because it still hits 3 targets at least. But yeah, how's your opinion on it?
We do sometimes use the 2, 3, 4, and 5, but it's not really part of the rotation. It's kind of like they are used if you've still got energy left and you want to try and get rid of the energy. The big damage is when you're in range and you switch to mace. That's your main sort of thing for damage, I would say. That's how we play it. But you're right. It's one of the only classes that I've played that the auto attack is your best friend. You want to just target someone at the back of the group and just keep auto targeting the whole time that you're at range. But as soon as you're in mace range, you want to switch out of there and get right into mace and put down some fields and immobilizes, etc.
Remember, there's also reflects on the enemy all the time, most of the time, which doesn't really matter for our brutality or for auto-attacking, because you will hit stuff. It's just naturally. You spend so much short bow, especially with quickness, that it's the amount of reflection, the amount of self damage you inflict is not that high, but you still get strips off.
with quickness, can I use Chopo for stability strips? Does that work? So when I
Using
switch weapons, I get quickness. That should make me able to strip stability. So I could, in fight, switch to Chopo, truck the 4 at the front of the enemies, and that should theoretically get rid of some stability. Correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty sure it does. Every strikes that you do, it doesn't matter what kind of strike. And
So that's
yeah,
something I can use. Okay.
the skill is very useful. There might be people who
Excellent.
don't have stability, and you hit them, and you might be even stripping 3 bones with your sigil. So use it. Just remember it costs energy.
When you're done with strips and everything, the pre-fight stuff, let's say, and you can either the commander times down the engage timer, or you see the enemy coming towards you. Is there a specific legend you prefer to be in?
Well, yeah, it's a difficult question because it always depends on the situation, and you will be switching through your legends anyway. There is no end to stripping. Of course, there's an engagement phase where you strip more, but when you are in the enemy, sometimes, especially if the enemy is overwhelming and very strong and there's more people, yeah, you might be pushing in and you want to draw the lead because they have stronger bombs than you. Sometimes they're stripping so much, you need all the stability you can get. You get sword on a stabby road. So yeah, there's not really a scenario. There are very different scenarios, and you just need to practice and try out for yourself what can be best.
By default, you want to start on dwarf, drop the lines on the approaching, then switch to demon. If possible, have 70 energy, and be ready to strip.
Exactly, yeah. How I play is I'm very active on all the kind of wounds I can give. I will always try to give up some might. I will use my stabby road to give out some stability, some swiftness. I'm all about giving off wounds, throwing them off cooldown, and use my mace a lot pre-fight and in-fight when we are close on the enemy. Yeah, but in general, when we engage, stabby road, I might be already pre-stacking at this point, and then I go land on Melix. I start to strip. Maybe get another strip. But yeah, I might to go in back into dwarf, get a stabby road out, maybe get some more swiftness or some damage depending on where we are.
Yep, so right at the beginning, when Andrew says stack swiftness, or sometimes he says lightning field, or like loads of commanders say different things, but we know that it's put a road down and then blast that with skill 3 mace. And also your scrappers should just be blasting the shit out of that as well. You can get 2 off. You can get 2 blasts off of your road, and then the commander should go off to either the left or the right, away from all the roads and lightning fields, and say stack might. And that's when we put down skill 2 on the mace, followed by skill 3 inside of it, which will blast might. And also other classes can blast that too, obviously. But in between doing those things, we're just, as soon as the commander stops and we think he's about to engage, we're pre-stacking resistance and doing that in between as well, as best you can. It's a nightmare at the start.
Can we just go through the pre-buffing sequence now? So imagine we're approaching each enemy group.
So stack swiftness. And then we want to move to the left. Fire fields down, mace 2, followed by mace 3, blast it. And that was us almost at 24, with just our blast. And then we want to go towards the enemy. And we want to start clicking for an enemy at the back. And then strip them, dodge back. And then hopefully one of them gets pulled. And we use skill 4 on mace. Switch immediately to longbow while we're in range and just keep hitting off that auto attack. And all the while you're also giving yourself might with F2 and a lack and stripping again, switching.
Well, does anyone have any follow-up questions they want just before we have to shoot?
How do I practice? Can get better at recognizing the range of the strip of the banish?
Look under your ability, select the enemy, walk close, and look at the ability. Look at Banish Enchantment. Walk closer. At the very bottom, there's a red bar. When it disappears, you're in range.
Wow, I did not know that. Okay, that's a very useful.
What?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's a very useful.
not all.
The spell also goes off if the target's out of range, and it still strips if there are people between you.
Yes. You have to be careful. If you have a target selected, that's true, and you click Banish Enchantment, it will go on to cooldown without doing anything. So
Also,
you want to...
don't forget that you have a greatsword, and you can pre-stack, but you also don't need because you get a lot of wounds from your teammates. And on your greatsword, best skills used are 2 and 5 for damage.
Also, another way to remember or to figure out the range is you're auto attacking with your short bow all the time with an enemy selected, and as soon as those shots start hitting, like as soon as you start getting numbers, you're in 900 range.
That's a good cue.
Yeah.
All right, that's good advice. Thank you.
You could try to build a habit to just pop the stubby roads while walking, even without combat, just to blast the swiftness and keep up the alak. These two activities, even out of combat when we are moving, because you want to start the fight with alak already ticking on your team.
One more thing I'd like to add last is please use Relic of Herald. It's nice to have Ceros for some additional strips, but yeah, most of the times Ceros just, because we move so much, pops into nothing. Whereas Herald Relic, Ascended Celestial Gear, and also full stacks on your Sigil of Stars, you have 100% wound duration. You can send any footage you want for review to Leechess or me, and we can go over that and point out where we can help you to improve.
Yeah.
If you don't like recording, you're also welcome to message me and tell me different days you played, and we go over reports. Most of the time I can tell from the statistics if you were mostly fighting clouds or squads and can tell you what to improve, but I need some time for that because I need to study the report first. That's it. That's it from me. If you got any follow-up questions, also send me them or to Leechess. Feel free. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Of course. We did it. We did it. We did it.